The music industry is so amazing. What would we do without it? We need music in our lives, and musicians are very special people. But they also have some very unique problems. Did you know that of women musicians, 21% are artists, 12 are songwriters, and only, well, less than 3% are producers? What's really alarming is that men really do dominate the music field, and often they take far more credit than is due for songwriting and storytelling and even performance. We're going to talk about women, the music industry, unique challenges they face in a male dominated world, and what has been done to help them. We're going to talk about the person who helps them, and we're going to talk about Music Cares, part of the Grammy community, who just this year in March raised over $2.1 million to help the humans that are behind the music we love so much. My guest today has been a force in several arenas. She's a force at the Grammys Music Cares program, and she's been a force in the field of chemical dependency for over 32 years. Her credentials are amazing. And because of her and the work she does at Music Cares, so many musicians are able to cope with the immense pressure that is laid upon them by the industry and how to break out of the drug use and the alcohol abuse that is so rampant among performers. Shireen Janti is my guest and a wonderful individual who has done so many amazing things. Let me tell you a little bit about her. First, I mentioned her credentials. Well, let me tell you, she is a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor. She is a certified relapse prevention specialist and a personal life coach as well. The way she has helped people is what we're going to talk about. The how, the where, the what of Music Cares, which is the charitable arm of the Recording Academy, known as the Grammys. She started in the role of an addiction recovery specialist with hard work and some hard knocks. She has commitment and tenacity, and she understands all too well what chemical dependency can do to people, especially women. Welcome, welcome, Shireen. I am so happy you could come into the studio today. It's good to see you, and I'm so glad that my listeners will get to know you.
It is great to be here. I'm so happy to be here, Tadia. Thank you for having me.
It is an absolute privilege for me to have you. You are the Senior Director of Music Cares, which has teams of people that are working to help our musicians. You manage and you facilitate all facets and services that Music Cares provides. And let me tell you, it's a lot. It's health and human services, addiction recovery assessments, referrals, case management. Shireen's a public speaker, and her focus is helping women. She speaks on panels, she speaks at workshops. Her topics bring really the education, awareness, prevention, and resources to the public, to the community at large. And we're going to talk about her 10 nationwide music care support groups, the sober jams that the music community puts on, why she received so many awards, such as the Gratitude for Giving Award, Distinguished Service in the Field of Recovery, the Visionary Award, and the Women's Association of Addiction Treatment Award, which she received only recently.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about you, girl. It's so nice to have you. Tell us a little more about Music Cares if you can. Why did the Grammys decide to create Music Cares? What's your goal? What's your mission?
Thanks, Tadia. Music Cares was created in 1989 by the Recording Academy. So it's been around for 32 years. And the reason why they did is because first of all, Music Cares does not usually typically help your A-list musicians and people that everybody knows and has heard about. The best way to describe Music Cares is we're the Red Cross for the music community. It's not just musicians. What I love about Music Cares, it's for the stage line people, it's for the stage help, it's for the bus driver, it's for the artist who puts their art on a CD cover. It's for anybody that works and makes a living being paid to have anything to do in the music industry. So it's not just a musician. It could be the sound engineer, it can be the road manager, it can be anybody who is in the music industry. And I think that's really important for people to understand, because so many people have felt that, oh, I'm not a musician, or I won't qualify, and they'd be surprised. Our criteria is very lenient. You have to have 5 years in the music industry, and it can be collective, or it doesn't have to be consecutive, or just 6 credits on a CD, on a song, and you qualify to get assistance from us. Why we were created is because so many people, like I just described, do live paycheck to paycheck. They aren't the ones that make a lot of money. They pay their rent, but God forbid something medical happens, or their car breaks down, or something that's just out of the norm of their daily living. They can't take care of themselves, and they're stuck. So that's where we come in, because we want to give back to our own. The Academy wanted to give back to the music community and help people who otherwise wouldn't be helped. So we just come in where normally they wouldn't get help elsewhere. And we have grown considerably from where we were at then to where we're at now. We have 3 teams within our Health and Human Services department, which is our human services, which is your daily living expenses like rent, utilities, car insurance, car notes, anything that's considered an emergency. We also help with seniors, senior living, housing, and legal. So that would be that department. We also have our health services, which is medical and dental. And then we have the department that I'm in, which is mental health and addiction. That can be anywhere from people who just are depressed, not really going through much, but they just need some therapy, kind of sort things out, to people who are in a full-on addiction or alcoholism. They can't stop, they've tried, but they don't have the means to get help, or even just the mental health piece. Say they're not using drugs or alcohol, or both. They're suffering from any of those disorders, and so they need to see a psychiatrist and get evaluated and possibly get on medication, and maybe not. But that's where we come in to help them figure it out. And then, then they become responsible to carry it out.
That's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that. So the person doesn't have to be a member of the Grammy.
No, they don't even have to be a member of a union or anything. I mean, it's really incredible.
Just open to people who are in the industry,
Right.
whether it's on stage or off stage, it doesn't matter. That is amazing. I know when COVID hit and everybody's gigs were canceled, and still today, concerts are being canceled. We're going to see this for a while, I fear. You're doing so well. How does Music Cares get its money?
We're very fortunate. One of the things that is great is because we are the baby, we are the charity of the Grammys, the Recording Academy. So we do have a name, and we have a name that's reputable. We also, as a charity, are we get 4 stars, which is the highest rating you can get with Charity Navigator. And so where we get our money is many, many ways. I mean, throughout the years, we certainly have put on various fundraisers, house concerts. A lot of people open up their house and they have concerts with artists who, charge a hefty fee to have a dinner in this house and have a private concert. There's now festivals, nationwide, and a lot of the promoters will give us whatever it is on the dollar, whether it's 25 cents, a dollar, per ticket that's donated to Music Cares. And then we have our own events that we also put on. Our biggest event, which is every year, called Person of the Year. It's 2 days before the Grammy Awards telecast, because everybody flies into town in January. It's either January, February. But right before COVID, we did Aerosmith. We've done Dolly Parton, Fleetwood Mac, Tom Petty, Lionel Richie, Bob Dylan, Carole King, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, the list goes on and on. Paul McCartney, Barbara Streisand. So we've had big names, and it's about 3,800 people. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. And it's a sit-down dinner, which is phenomenal. And then the artist invites all the other A-list artists to get on stage. So it's a night of music and song. And so that's our biggest fundraiser. And we typically raise about $8 million that night.
That's an amazing amount of money. And it's interesting. I think what might be nice is, why don't we play music throughout the show by one of these Music Care Persons of the Year, but women, and Bonnie Raitt, Natalie Cole, Gloria Estefan, Aretha, Barbara Streisand, and Carole King have all received the award. So we will just, hang in there, listeners. You'll get to hear some really good voices
That sounds
tonight.
lovely.
Absolutely. I am just so impressed with what Music Cares has done. I don't think a lot of people know about it, just average, regular folk. What do you do when you go across the country and you have these sober jams?
People who are newly sober, who one of the biggest challenges of anybody in the music industry, really just an entertainment period, but really the music industry. When you go on the road, you can't choose to not be around alcohol or not be around drugs. The regular person who struggles with alcoholism or drug addiction can actually choose to not place themselves around alcohol or drugs. If they go to a job, it's not like there's alcohol everywhere. They can choose not to have it around. But for the musician who's traveling, everywhere they go, whether it's in a club, whether it's at a concert, whether it's all the people around them that are just giving it to them for free. You know what I mean? They don't know what's going on, whether it's a risk or not to put it out there. They just want to be friends or, be a buddy. And so they just freely offer all this stuff to a musician. So one of the hardest things is when somebody gets out of drug and alcohol treatment and they have to go back on the road, or just even before they go on the road, it's just living life again. Like, how do I, and a lot of people think they can never have fun and that they can't be creative without alcohol, or without drugs. So this sober jam is amazing because we get a lot of sober artists together, some of them newly sober, some of them who volunteer and who just want to come around and they've been sober for years. Every now and then we'll invite somebody who's of notoriety, who these other musicians look up to, who is sober, and they'll come and they'll jam with them. But it's a place for them to learn, to support each other, be with each other, and play music, and just have an amazing evening sober, and learning that, wow, I really can have fun. I really can be creative, and we can really do this together. And it's amazing.
Oh, it sounds like it would be so entertaining and a lot of fun. You know what I wanted to know? How did Music Cares even come into your life? Or why did you choose Music Cares if that's how it happened?
Boy, oh boy, that's a loaded question that I will try to give you in a minute or two. It's a beautiful story for me and life-changing. I'll just tell you that in my life, I feel that every door that we are willing to walk through opens up, a light, a space for us. I come from, as you know, a family of entertainment. My mother was an actress, and I've always been in some way working in the music industry or entertainment. But I am also sober myself. And because of that, I ended up getting my credentials and wanting to give back to the world that was suffering and challenged with addiction and alcoholism. In my journey, of getting my credentials and working at different organizations helping, I found out about Music Cares. And Music Cares was something that was near and dear to me, that I immediately knew without a doubt that I belonged there, needed to be there. The backstory is I wanted to work here for years and there was no position open. And finally, one position opened, and it happened to be, unfortunately, a gentleman who passed away, but he's the guy who actually did my admission when I got sober. So it's a beautiful story.
Oh, it sounds like it. And you know what? Let's come back because I know my listeners will want to know more. I want to know that story of exactly what happened to you because you fell into addiction and you got out, and Music Cares and everyone associated with it is now benefiting. So let's take a listen to one of these women who was a person of the year and enjoy just a quick break. We'll be right back, folks, to Womanocity for Women with Curiosity. Hang in, stay tuned, enjoy the music.
Rock steady, baby, that's what I feel now. Let's call this song exactly what it is.
Womanocity is like a good cup of coffee with a new friend, somebody I'd never have a chance to meet. Sometimes it's a new idea or thinking about an old one in a new way. It's girlfriends. It's Tadia, and it's all good. This is American artist, writer, and girlfriend Jenny Cooley in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Mna ndingukhwezi futhi ucenenda and ndithanda ukumamela iWoman Radio ndizokufunda izinto ezintsha ndive nomculo omnandi. Iinkqubo zabo zimnandi kwaye zisebenzisa ingqondo. Ukusukela On the Couch to Womanocity, hlala kukho into emnandi yokumamela nemfundiso entsha. Ndithanda kakhulu ukuba ngummameli. Ndiyavuya ukuba nawe umamele.
Hello, and we are back. I certainly hope you enjoyed the music and the quick break that we took. I'm with Shireen Janti, the Senior Director of the Music Cares program, which is what the Recording Academy, otherwise known as the Grammys, offers to all people who are associated or involved in the music industry, not just performers. Now, your story is indeed very personal, how you got to Music Cares and why you wanted to be at Music Cares. You really do bring to the table something that many others don't or can't because of your background with addiction. Would you be kind enough to share a little bit about that and what your message is to other women who are also suffering addiction, now or before?
Thank you. So I feel like my gift, what do I bring to the table? Again, this is just my experience and my belief. People can go to school, they can get their credentials, and I think that's amazing, and it's a lot of work. But just because you get the credential doesn't mean you always really get it. And just because we get our degrees or whatever doesn't mean that we have the gift. And what I've learned in life is many people have gifts, and they have gifts that are just innate, and it's within them. And I never really knew what my gift was. But as a young woman, I struggled very much most of my life, just having self-esteem, knowing that I was enough, fitting into the world. And so, of course, my solution fell into drugs and alcohol, which took me on a ride and a road that is something that I don't wish on anybody, towards the end. I'm so grateful because so many people do not get sober or they can't stay sober. And I'm so grateful that, as they call it, I hit my bottom finally to where I was willing to do whatever it took to change my life, and start doing the work to care for myself, respect myself, love myself, know that I'm enough. Now, this has taken years, Tadia. I'm 32 years sober now, 32 years, which I laugh because I think I'm still 32 years old, okay?
I understand.
That's our little joke. I'm like, how can I be 32 years sober? But that means I'm also 62 years old now. I was 30 years old when I got sober.
And you look 29.
Oh, I love you. To answer the question, and it's so near and dear to me, this question is so many women I know, and my heart just goes out to them. And the more that I've been able to love myself and know my self-worth, the more I've been able to just crave loving women up. And some of the most brilliant women I've met that are professionals, right? They're VPs, they're presidents. Work-wise, they got it down, they're doing it, they're hustlers. But then there's always that part, and I see this almost hands down, but their choices in men, their choices in relationships, and there's that whole other piece that you go, huh? Like, what's going on there? She's obviously smart and brilliant, and it's not, and not just the smart and brilliant. I mean, any woman, but especially there's this saying that I love: outward appearances are not inward realities.
Oh, that's very true.
Outward appearances are not inward realities. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, how many times have you looked at whether it's a couple or a powerhouse person, or you just see somebody, you go, oh, their life is just great, everything's wonderful, they must have it all, I'm so envious. And then you hear that they're dead next week, or you hear that they've been beaten up or whatever, just tragic things, because underneath it all, they didn't do the work to get honest with themselves, to learn how to have boundaries with themselves, to love themselves. So it's just this facade on the outside, which gives them false self-esteem to be able to present that they're enough. And yet the reality is that when we've heard all these stories over and over and over again of how many people are not with us anymore or fallen from grace, because at the end of the day, even just the mental health, if they don't die, just the mental health is not addressed, it will take them out.
We often hear about extremely successful men and women, stars, actors, musicians, artists, heads of corporations. They're amazing and they do great things in the world. But then you come to discover that they do have these addictions. There's this emotional piece of them that somehow their needs never got met. And I've tried to think about how that happens. Why is it you can be so driven with everything that's external, but then so fearful to deal with what is internal? It's very true. Money, yeah, it's wonderful to have. However, really, really rich people, they still commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not the panacea. It is not the answer to everything to have money and fame and fortune, because we've seen too many young, brilliant, bright lights extinguished because of addiction.
Yes.
What is your message to other women who are in their addiction now, who are suffering from addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or any kind of addiction? Sex can be an addiction, money can be an addiction. Addiction is addiction. If you can't cut it out or stop it, that's an addiction. What do you tell women, especially who are facing such a difficult life change and they just can't seem to make it yet?
Specifically, women who are in the music industry, let me just start with that. The Music Cares is here to help them. And the help is there. And a lot of women I find, and a lot of people, because treatment costs so much money, that in itself can be a barrier for some people, just thinking that they could never get the help because they can't afford it. Also, at this time, Music Care services are for people in the United States.
Have you been able to start other Music Cares type services in other countries or worked with other music organizations to do so?
There are organizations in other countries that we can refer to or talk to. At this point, that's as far as that's gone. At some point, we are hoping to expand, but that has not happened yet. But the bottom line is, when you say, what do you say to a woman? That every woman matters and deserves to have a voice and deserves to feel good about herself. The reason why it's such a struggle also is a lot of women are the ones that are at home. And if they're married or not, even not married, just have children, they're the mother. They're the ones that take care of the children. Who's going to take care of the children? How are they going to go to treatment? There's so many reasons why it's harder for women to get the help or believe that they can get the help. A lot of times they're in abusive relationships where they feel like if they leave, how will they make it? They're dependent, on people. And again, I mean, it's easy to say, because I could say all this stuff. Somebody could hear me saying this right now, but it really is true that all it takes is just you picking up the phone and calling someone who can start planting the seed to help them find the way and the path to, get sober. And once you get sober, and when I say sober, that's off of anything, then you start doing the deeper work, which helps us just deal with all the other issues. I wish I could tell you that it happens overnight. It doesn't. And I think that's the key word, that people have to have patience, and they have to know that, we didn't get here overnight, and healing and recovery isn't going to just happen overnight, and some people I have found get very impatient and they think, oh, see, this doesn't work, or it's not going to work, or I can't do it. And like anything, though, it's about consistency. There's a saying, if you keep doing what you do, you keep getting what you get. But I always flip that statement on a positive side, too. It's not only just the negative that if you keep doing what you do, you keep getting what you get. If you also keep doing positive things, then you're going to start getting positive things.
The good thing is that Alcoholics Anonymous exists all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's no help anywhere else. AA is a great resource to use, but it does take work, hard work. You have to face your demons. For you, what were the 3 things that you needed to really deal with, to really take the step into becoming a success story?
That's a great question. That's probably one of the hardest questions for me, though. I have found the only way that I can be productive, the only way that I can connect, is by being authentic and honest and true. It's only when you hear the truth that I find that people believe. And what happened to me is towards the end of my using and drinking, I had a daughter. At that time, she was 6 years old. And I was really just not a good parent, not doing healthy things, putting her at risk, putting me at risk. I knew that this was not the way that I wanted to live. I was also in, as I spoke about earlier, one of those unhealthy relationships with somebody who was actually a good person. He meant well. You know, a lot of people have good intention, but you know, if you don't have the tools and you haven't done the work, you still act out. And I was in a very unhealthy relationship where it was physically abusive. And I will say the night before that I got sober and have been sober ever since, he kind of snapped and he raped me and he beat me to a pulp. And so, you know, unfortunately, I think for most people who struggle with any type of addiction, as you spoke about, it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. Yes, it could be gambling, sex addiction, shopping, whatever. You know, I've seen people lose their homes from gambling, their marriages, homes. I mean, actually, it's worse than drug addiction because gambling is so much money at once that people just gamble away and they'll sign, you know, the deeper they get, the more they're willing to sacrifice. And so for me, it was just, there was that moment where I knew that I could not do this anymore. You know, that it was either I wanted to change my life or I was going to probably die. You know,
I think a lot of women come to that. How much do we really need to hurt ourselves before or hurt others that we love and that love us? How far do you have to go? How much does it have to hurt? And for women, sometimes it takes a lot. Let's come back in a minute. Let's listen to another beautiful song by a great woman musician who was a Music Cares Person of the Year. And we'll be back with Shireen Janti, Senior Director of Music Cares, the charitable arm of the Grammys, the Recording Academy. She has so much more advice to give and so many more messages to women suffering addiction. But fear not, there's a lot of success stories she'll share too. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
This will be an everlasting love.
My name is Linda Beal. I live in California. When I want thought-provoking programs to listen to, I pull up Woman Radio. I especially appreciate the fascinating women who are interviewed on Womanocity. Woman Radio is a lively and lovely way to spend my time.
Hi, Lino Ramalekana, Light of Africa, South Africa, here in Pretoria. Thanks, Voni, for bringing Women Radio to life so that we listeners who have mental nourishment whenever we want it. There's no subject off the table. The Women Radio gives us the freedom to express our hope, dreams, fear, and determination to make a better world for our children.
Here we are again. Thank you for being back with me, Tadia Rice, on Womanocity for women with curiosity like you and me and my guest, Shireen Janti, Senior Director of Music Cares, the charitable arm of the Grammys. She has such an amazing story. I'm so grateful that you have felt comfortable enough to share that story with us. And I know that there are other stories that you've witnessed other women who were suffering addiction and what happened to them. How did they break free and leave a life of whatever type of addiction?
Well, Tadia, that is a loaded question because there are so many success stories. Luckily, I have been at Music Cares now for 17 years. So I have 17 years of stories that I could tell. So let me tell you about one that comes to my mind. So about 4 years ago, there was this girl who called me and she was addicted to benzodiazepines, specifically Xanax. And if anybody knows about that, that's one of the hardest drugs for anybody to detox off of and also one of the most dangerous. She was young and had never been to rehab before. And I was trying to help her and I sent her somewhere and she was resistant and she was complaining. And oh my God, she was one of the most difficult cases I'd ever had and also one of the most challenging, not just as a case and as a human being, but me personally as a clinician. She challenged me and pressed all my triggers and she would just fight me on everything. I had to place her like 2 or 3 different places, which we normally don't do because we normally don't have the funding to just keep putting them different places. For whatever reason, I didn't want to give up on her. For whatever reason, I believed that she did really want the help, but she was just scared and she was difficult. So that being said, fast forward, there were times, and the reason why she's so special to me is because she's the one that challenged me the most, that there were days I didn't even want to hear her voice or talk to her because she was very, very difficult and not grateful. Not grateful for the help. So she would be trying to tell me how to do my job and how she wasn't getting like her vegetarian food, but she was homeless and didn't have her own room. And anyway, the stories could go on and on like that. But let me tell you what happened. She reached out to me and she knew that she challenged me. And for some reason, she looked me up, I guess, on social media. Well, she saw that I love these dogs. And one day I come to work. And there's this package at the reception area, and it's this big painting. And she had hand painted a picture of my dogs for me herself as a thank you. And of course, that just broke me down, broke my heart open to her. And since then, I've been like a mentor to her. Since then, she has stayed sober. She has 4 years sober now. She decided to go to college, to school, and become an addictions counselor. She just told me she just got an A. She reached out to me actually just this morning and texted me and sent me her paper. And because she knows how much she struggled and how difficult she was, and that she wanted to help people specifically who struggled with that drug, and help them. And it's just, I can't even describe to you. I'm not describing it as brilliantly as it feels in my heart. But it's those type of stories, hearing those type of miracles that make you say, that's why I do what I do. Because the light, and she is, by the way, one of the most talented. She's a fire walker. She does fire walking and music and dance, and she's brilliant. I mean, she's very, very talented and still, has records out. But you know what? She wants to give back, and she chose to go to school because, this changed her life. And I was a part of that. Music Cares was a part of that. And that's the gift.
That sure is the gift. Wow. If you were to explain, how do you walk in the world, Shireen Janti, amazing woman that you are?
Oh, honey bunny, you know what? That's one of my favorite questions today. And I almost, it almost brings me to tears when I think of it, but tears of joy, pain, everything, because it's taken me a long time to authentically and when I say authentically, to myself, not to you. I feel like I've always been pretty honest with the world, but I lacked being honest with myself. And how I walk today in the world is with my head up high, first of all, no matter what, but with integrity and transparency, and most of all, learning how to use my voice. And when I say learning how to use my voice, it's also choosing my battles and when do I use my voice. And it's learning that balance of who am I? This is one of my favorite things. Who am I and what do I stand for? In the last 2 years of my life, I personally had a lot of changes in my life that happened, and they weren't aligned with everything else. Since I've been to Music Cares, I've been promoted 4 times, but that's come through me loving what I do, giving back, believing in myself more, learning how to have a voice, learning how to ask for what I feel I deserve or that I've worked hard for. And part of that was so I'd grown in my career and obtained the things in life. But there was this one part of my life that I would look at and I go, that's not aligned. That's not aligned with everything else that's happening in my life. So I had to challenge myself. And I had to challenge myself. And that those are the questions. Who am I and what do I stand for? Here I am, a mentor to all these other women in my life that I can give them the advice. I could tell them what to do. I know intellectually what to do, but some of them were just so hard to really have that faith and trust to just step out into that leap of faith. But I did. I finally did. And it transformed my life even more so these last 2 years. And now I know that, no matter what, you have to walk through your fear and you have to believe and don't do it alone. So how do I walk? I walk with being a human being who has human experiences, who has learned not to be afraid to talk about them because most of the world has struggled in one way or another, like we do. And how we help others is by sharing our story if we feel confident enough to do so. Not everybody can. I'm lucky that I am in a position and in a forum where I can be transparent and talk about it. But if you can talk about it, the greatest gift of all is to share your healing and your shift and your change with the world, which only makes you freer within yourself.
Learning to forgive ourselves is not always easy, is it?
No, it's not.
What else would you tell women around the world that you think would benefit them, given the context of the subject matter we're discussing?
I think any woman, I don't care who it is, and I've come across I've worked with so many different races, I've been to different countries, different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, everybody matters. Everybody deserves to feel good about themselves and not live in fear and not live in shame, and that everything that's happened to them, is not their fault. And if there is any part at all, it's just not having the courage to do what's possible to make those changes, to be free. And then if they choose to help others. And I think that's a universal language, that it doesn't matter what country, what language they speak. Abuse is abuse anywhere, wherever you go, whether you're a powerhouse and you're, again, a president of a company, or you are the best mother and you're at home and you take care of your kids and you raise them amazingly. But whatever it is that you do, wherever you're at, I have seen abuse at the same level. Abuse, drug addiction has no prejudice. It will take you from Park Lane or Park Bench. It does not matter.
Yeah. Very true. And you mentioned shame. There's so much stigma, more so for women than men. Isn't shame part of what leads us to self-destruction through addiction?
Absolutely. In the last, several years, is that so many people are now coming out and having a voice and using their voice. So what used to be very embarrassing and shameful, now you have A-list artists, actors, politicians, people who are talking about that they are sober, that they had a problem. So it's not so uncommon anymore, really. In fact, the cool thing is, believe it or not, is to be sober, because depending on where you're at, it could be looked at different ways. But I don't care who you are, what you do. You could be a drug addict and alcoholic and have a problem there, or you could not have touched a drug in your life. People are going to judge us regardless. I finally learned the lesson that no matter how nice I am, how kind I am to whoever, wanting everybody to like me, There's always going to be someone who judges me. There's always going to be someone who has an opinion. And that is going to be the way it is for the rest of probably my life and probably everybody else's. If I keep comparing myself to others, or if I keep worrying about what everybody else thinks about me, I will never then be true to myself. And at some point, it's about what do you need to do to make you happy, and what do you know you need to do for yourself? Because it won't matter what you do. There'll always be someone or something that you will still never be enough or do it right. Or so many people have been abused, especially artists. That's why some of the music is just so powerful and amazing, because it's from their personal stories. But not just artists. I mean, the work that I've done with so many people, I mean, you'd be shocked at the level of people who have been, incest within the family, and then rapes and all kinds of stuff that people have grown up with, even just mental abuse, being abandoned, whatever. It's not just, again, going back to that statement, outward appearances are not inward realities. A lot of people judge and think, oh, an alcoholic's like downtown, with the trench coat, on Skid Row. No, and they're the ones that have had the abuse. No, some of the abuse and some of the worst cases I have ever heard of are from the most affluent families, the most educated people. But again, sickness is emotional. It's not what's on the outside and what you achieve and the credentials you have. It's like, if we don't heal our soul, if we don't heal our spirit, then we continue to abuse and carry it down the line.
And if we don't abuse others, we abuse ourselves. And I've long said that anyone who has an addiction or any kind of escapist pastime, whatever it might be, they're not happy people. Because happy people who understand their purpose and have a clarity of what life is about, they don't really need an addiction. There's an emptiness that drives us to addiction. It's mental health. And only now, really, in the last few years, has mental health taken a front seat in society. And there's still places where it's not. Oh, you've given us such good advice, Shireen. Let me ask you, what's the best advice you were ever given?
Oh my gosh. Well, probably what I just shared, because I think so much of my life personally, I was comparing myself. I've also struggled with an eating disorder. And that was a big reason how I actually got into drugs, because at a very young age, at 12 years old, because I always struggled with food and my weight, I started taking diet pills. Well, the diet pills led into other stimulants and much harsher drugs to keep the weight off. But the reason why I bring that up as a woman specifically is our body image. We're so programmed by media and magazines and false advertising and airbrushed pictures. And so we see these pictures and people of perfection. And how can we ever measure up to that? And we think, though, that's what like reality is. And I'll just say, as a woman who at one time in my life, I share this. This is hard for me to share, but I share it because I want to help others. I need them to know they're not alone. One time in my life, I was over 300 pounds. And that was probably the most painful part of my life. I will also share with you, when I told you that music hair story and how I got the job was amazing, I also got the job when I was at that highest weight. And without having the time to tell you about it, I do believe in a higher power, I'll call it that. And I know at that time in my life, it taught me that it really is an inside job. When we hear that, yes, does the outside matter? Do I want to be healthy? Do I want to live life? Yes. So I have lost weight and I do want to eat better and I do want to be better. And that all is very important. But I know some of the most beautiful women on the outside, including myself at times, and have been the most unhappy, because if you don't do the inside stuff, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, you're never going to be enough. And my point in sharing this story is that at 300 pounds, I was starting to do the work though. And I remember when this position opened and I thought, oh, they'll never want me. Like, I'm 300 pounds. Well, who's going to hire somebody 300 pounds, especially at the music industry? But I was taught, if a door opens, you walk through it. You walk through that door. It's not my business what the outcome is, but it is my business if the door is there. And, if I never would have walked through that door, I wouldn't be here sitting with you now having this conversation. And so what that told me is they saw me. They saw the gift beyond the 300 pounds. They gave me, the position. And since then, that was part of my healing as well, knowing that I was valuable, that I was worthy, that I was seen. And that helped me be better to me and want to eat better and be better. And I started transforming not only with myself, but being able to give to the world and other women and teach them that too. And I knew that my self-worth was, who am I inside? What do I bring to the table? And then just how can I be better and how can I walk better and all that? Because we all have our challenges. We all have our struggles, but we get to do it better and be better and, get stronger with it.
It's often that other people see the light in us when we don't see it ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, let your light shine. And every now and then, look in the mirror and see your own light, because we all have it. There is so much more to share with Shireen Janti, Senior Director of Music Cares in Los Angeles, the charitable arm of the Grammys, the Recording Academy. Oh my goodness. We'll be right back with the most glamorous, not 300-pound big woman, but firm, tight girl. You are in great shape, gorgeous. Yes, sirree. I think you've probably now matched who you wanted to be outside with who you already are inside, which is a great, wonderful, beautiful woman. And we'll be right back with that great, wonderful, incredible woman, Shireen Janti, in just a few minutes. And enjoy just a quick break. We'll be right back, folks, to Womanocity for Women with Curiosity. Stay tuned. Enjoy the music. And we are back with Shireen Janti, Senior Director of Music Cares, the most wonderful organization, a part of the Recording Academy of the United States. You know it as the Grammys. And Shireen, thank you for all the information you shared about addiction, what women need to know, what women need to appreciate about themselves. I have one last question before we get to having some fun. What would you say is your biggest achievement to date?
Thank you, Tadia. When you talk about biggest achievement, I mean, of course, I'm so proud of myself that I've just, gone to school, overcome my addiction one day at a time, truly. But, having 32 years of sobriety is nothing to sneeze at. Moving up in the company of Music Cares, all that stuff. When I look at it, I go, oh my God, like, who is this person sometimes? Because that is not as a little girl who I ever thought that I could ever dream of being who I am today. But what I will say to you is that I also am a mother, and I do have one child, and today she is 38 years old. She is the apple of my eye. She is my greatest gift. Also, a lot of gifts come though in a lot of lessons, right? Well, when she was young, I was in my addiction, and because I was in my addiction, I will just say, without getting into all the details, that I definitely fell short as a mother. And when I look back, there's so many pains and so many things that, of course, I wished I could have, would have done differently, but I couldn't, and I didn't. What I did do is I got sober. What I did do is I started learning what it was like to be human, to start forgiving myself, to start learning just about being a human being and treating other people like human beings. And it took me a long time, to really realize what it really meant to be a mother. There was a point in my sobriety, I wish I could blame it all on my using, but again, like I said, it took us years to get here. We don't just get sober and you're well overnight. I finally was able to forgive myself. That doesn't mean that there isn't pain. That doesn't mean that I still don't wish things were different, but I do forgive myself. And I was able to make a true amends to my daughter, and shift my behavior, treat her as a true human being, like I would a friend, with respect and love and dignity, and to let her have her own journey, by the way, which is so hard as a parent sometimes. For those of you that are parents, we care for our children. We want to tell them how to live life, live by our mistakes, please learn. And, part of the biggest, I think, achievement is learning how to be an ally and a friend and love them even when they don't love us or are angry at us and we don't feel loved. And as a parent, no matter what I have achieved in my life, the greatest achievement is to be able to come from a place of love and healing and teaching, and to be a foundation and just of hope with my daughter.
Thank you for that. That I think a lot of us can relate to that with our daughters, our sons, but especially mothers and daughters. It's a very different situation, and I don't know that anyone understands it unless they're the mother or the daughter.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So listen, my dear, we're going to have some fun now because you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for the Womanocity 25 question in 2 minutes speed round. So I want to make sure that you get 2 passes if you can't answer anything, but I got 25 questions. So are you sure you're ready to do this?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. The clock is ticking. What color or flavor is your favorite M&M?
Green.
Okay. Are you a cat or a dog person? Oh, I know the answer. Oh, very much.
You know it's a dog.
You have 2 of the funniest dogs on planet Earth. One is tiny and one is giant, and they can't get enough of each other. And I tell you, I don't know who's the boss. I think the little one.
He thinks he is. She lets him think so, but believe me, she's the boss. But she just lets him think so.
Okay. Would you rather eat chocolate or watch your favorite TV show?
Watch my favorite TV show.
All right. What's one city you've always dreamed of traveling to?
Italy.
Are you a morning or night person?
Night.
What words do you live by?
Transparency, love, commitment.
Beautiful. What's one vice you wish you could give up?
Sugar.
Sugar. Oh, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
That I'm a good person.
How do you start your day?
In prayer.
When are you the most inspired?
Probably mid-morning. And when I hear truth and honesty,
All right, moving on to food. Sweet or savory?
savoring.
What makes you smile the most, Shireen?
My dogs.
All right, what's one thing people don't know about you?
That I speak Farsi.
You speak Persian?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
چی میخوای من بگم به شما؟ من شما را خیلی دوست دارم.
Oh my goodness, where did you learn that?
I lived in Iran when I was younger. I've been there 7 times and lived there twice.
I had no idea. Okay, heels, flats, or sneakers?
Well, now in my life, it would be flats.
But I know you get to dress up and wear heels a lot too.
Yeah,
For
but-
work. All right, what's inspiring you in life right now?
me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done in your life?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. But let's just say went to Thailand right now and just did a whole bunch of stuff when I was there.
Wow. How would you define yourself in 3 words?
Passion, love, honesty,
Diamonds or pearls?
diamonds.
What's something you notice about someone when you first meet them?
Their face.
What's the one talent you wish you had?
To sing.
Aha. What's your favorite color?
I might have to pass because I like all the colors now. There's no
Okay.
specific color. Yeah. But,
Okay. How about what color do you wear the most?
so all.
Great. And you look great in all the colors too. So yeah, do it. Okay. What's the cutest thing on planet Earth?
Oh, come on, Tadia. You know what
Yeah.
that answer is. I mean,
Well, no, I want to hear you answer it. What's the cutest thing on planet Earth? Time is ticking, girl.
okay, Tucker and Zoe and Tatiana, my daughter. Got to throw her in there.
Tucker and Zoe are your dogs, just so that people know.
And she's
Okay.
my daughter. Yes.
What's the best thing that happened to you this year?
To be alive, honestly, to be grateful.
Shireen Janti, what you have done with Music Cares is nothing short of a miracle. Who you are is nothing short of a miracle. And I am so grateful and blessed and privileged that you had time to give me today and share your story, which inspires and motivates others. So thank you so very much. We will have to do this again.
I'd be honored to be with you again, and I thank you for having me come out. It's so important for women to raise women, lift women, and to be curious about each other. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Okay, folks, this is Tadia Rice with Womanocity for Women with Curiosity, broadcasting 24/7 and globally on Woman Radio. And I thank you for being with me today. Join me every Saturday night at 9 p.m. South Africa time.